At the core of manifesting is self-worth. It's a practice that I am so unbelievably passionate about because it has the power to change everybody who's listening's life.
How does the law of attraction differ from manifesting?
Different thoughts and emotions have different frequencies.
I've experienced both frequencies. My days would be darker than they are now, having worked, to get myself out of that situation.
The universe will keep showing you the same things until you learn the lesson. I don't think I've spoken about this much, but the overwhelming feeling I had was loneliness. Like I was so lonely. Oh God. Now, as I walk through life, so truly confident in who I am. And it really is all because I just figured out this life hack of manifestation and confidence.
Hello and welcome to Untapped, the podcast that brings you thought-provoking and entertaining conversations around health, wellness, and pushing yourself further so that we can all untap more of our potential. I'm Spencer Matthews.
And I'm Jake Quickenden.
And today's guest is Roxie Nafousi, two-time Sunday Times bestselling author whose book Manifest details in 7 straightforward steps how you can achieve any goal you set your mind to. She also has a brand new book out, Confidence.
What is your thoughts on manifesting before we get into the interview?
I've had mixed opinions on manifesting. Like certain things have happened in my life that are hard to explain. Kind of like at the times, certain things have fallen into place in a kind of strange way, or something's felt a bit spiritual or a bit unlikely. Or, I've thought about someone and then my phone's rang and it's them, so I agree with us all being connected by energy. Do I believe that, by imagining a red Ferrari that I'm going to end up with a Ferrari, if I don't do the work? I don't know. I think manifesting is a term that is used by a lot of people nowadays for just thinking and working and implying certain behaviors. I think if Roxy is the person to talk to on this, because obviously she's had so much success with her book. She's very, very well respected, in the literary space and just in general. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what she has to say about it, because I think if you don't understand it fully, it's quite easy to dismiss it.
Yeah. I also think everyone that I know pretty much manifests now because of the book Manifest. I'm excited to talk to Roxy about, okay, you need that thought process about where you want to be, but how do you then go about getting that?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's all very interesting. Over the years I've become, probably more spiritual than I was before. I think those two things tie in together.
Yeah.
I think the notion that like a lazy person can manifest success that requires hard work without doing the hard work, I think that notion is false.
Well, yeah, that's where I was going wrong. I was laid in bed thinking about getting loads of
mega
money.
yachts.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was laid in bed thinking about waking up on a yacht,
I want a
but doing
Bugatti.
absolutely nothing to make it happen.
Yeah. I would like a Bugatti and a motor yacht.
Yeah.
But I'm not
I'm
going
going to watch Friends all day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It obviously is a lot more than just thinking it. And I think we should get her on.
Indeed. Well, without further ado, here's Roxie Nafousi. Roxie Nafousi,
Thank you for having me.
thanks so much for joining us in the Untapped studio. Very delighted to have you in. Can you explain to us, as the queen of manifesting, what exactly is manifesting?
Okay. Manifesting is using the power of your mind to change and create the reality you experience. And to manifest means to make it happen. And I think that manifesting is sort of the umbrella of self-development. It's a way of living, and it's rooted in sort of science, spirituality, wisdom, philosophy. And I think it's a practice that I am so unbelievably passionate about because it has the power to change everybody who's listening's life. And it really is something that is for absolutely everyone.
Why would you say it's so effective?
At the core of manifesting is self-worth. So the secret of manifesting, let's say, is that we manifest what we subconsciously believe we are worthy of receiving. And so really it's all about how you feel about yourself. And if we change how we feel about ourselves, if we go on this healing journey and recognize our worth and start to believe that we're worthy of success, love, happiness, joy, then of course it goes without saying that your life is going to change and improve. But it also helps you really change your mindset, your perspective on everything, and sort of when I take people through my own 7-step guide to manifesting, I always say, it's impossible not to see a positive change in your life by following them, because it really does impact and influence every single part of your life.
You said that it's backed kind of by spirituality and science. I can understand the spiritual side of it. How is it rooted in science?
Okay, so there's lots of neuroscience really to back up manifestation, and it really comes down to the visualization part of it. So when we repeatedly visualize our goals and when we mentally rehearse, we prime the subconscious parts of our brain to reach those goals. So the subconscious parts of our brains account for 95% of our brain's activity. And so when we focus on something a lot, we'll filter out unwanted information and we'll see opportunities that are aligned with our goals. And then we have loads of cognitive biases that we use generally. And one of them, for example, is called frequency illusion. So that means that when you focus on something, you start to notice it more and it appears more prevalent than it is. And so I kind of sometimes give the example of, if you've just bought a new car and then all of a sudden every other car on the road is that car. And I think it can work in manifesting in this sense that, let's say that you want a new job and there's a particular role that you're looking for, and you were going through Facebook and suddenly, or LinkedIn, and suddenly you would notice an ad that was for that role because you've been focusing on it. So your subconscious is actually looking out for it, and then it finds it. And if you weren't, and you weren't focusing on it, and you didn't have that clarity or that goal, then you might have just completely missed it.
How does the law of attraction differ from manifesting?
This is where we kind of get this mix between what is the science and what is the pseudoscience. So quantum physics does tell us that everything in the world is made up of energy. And the only thing that differentiates like the sky from us is the density and the frequency of the vibration of the atoms. So that we do know to be true. The law of attraction is more pseudoscience. The law of attraction states that like attracts like. So things that have a high vibrational frequency attract things that match that frequency. And things that have a low vibrational frequency attract that frequency. Now, different thoughts and emotions have different frequencies. So high vibrational emotions such as joy, love, contentment, peace, gratitude, they make you feel good, and they help you attract good things back to you. Things that have a low vibrational frequency are things like envy, shame, guilt, sadness, fear. And when we're in that state, the law of attraction says that we'll attract things back to us that match that. Now, while this isn't rooted in actual science, I think anecdotally, we absolutely know that it's true. Because if you wake up in a bad mood, are those not the days that you forget your phone at home, your Uber cancels on you, you miss your train, your bill comes through the door, someone really pisses you off? Whereas the days when we're in a really good mood, when we're full of gratitude, when we're full of, positivity, when we're generally just feeling good, those are the days you're driving to work and all the traffic lights are green and things just seem to go your way. So I think that there's this real sort of argument with science here where, yes, it's not real science, but there is a scientific element to the fact that we know that energy matters. And I think that in our lives, we do see the law of attraction at play. Now, the difference between law of attraction and manifestation is that the law of attraction is just about this concept, that like attracts like. Manifestation requires you to be proactive. It's not just about changing your vibration or feeling good or having a positive mindset. It's about stepping outside your comfort zone, doing the work that you need to do to get to where you want to go.
How does a person change their frequency? So say you're not self-confident, you look in the mirror and you don't like what you see, you're not who you want to be. So the idea of manifesting is a really pleasant and attractive one because you want to change and you want more from life. But ultimately, thinking about things won't quite get you there, and getting to that positive frequency from a negative frequency can be hard. I've experienced both frequencies. We had a lovely chat when I came on your podcast where, I used to be full of shame, full of regret, full of bad habits. And my days would be darker than they are now, having worked, to get myself out of that situation and be disciplined, etc. But as somebody who has written an incredibly successful book that sold over 1 million copies, what would your advice be to somebody who's going through a really difficult time and wants to use manifesting to their advantage?
Oh my God. I feel like there's so much I would want to say to that person, and there's so much advice I would want to give them. I think that I'll start with step 2 of my 7-step guide to manifesting is remove fear and doubt. So fear and doubt is what is blocking all of us from having the life that we want. And this is rooted in our insecurities, limiting beliefs, low self-worth. And I think that for anybody listening that's feeling like this, firstly, understanding that you're not alone in that experience. I think that, when we sit next to somebody, we always assume that the person sat next to us is full of confidence and that they're not battling the inner demons that we are. But the truth is that those kind of, apart from you, Spencer, because I know that you really are confident.
It's really funny because I was just thinking that, because I think automatically people would look at me and think confident guy.
Yeah. But
every day is a battle. And I'm not afraid to say, every day I'm a huge self-doubter. I put myself down. So if it doesn't work out, I'm the first person that's already said it's not going to work out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Should I stop doing that? Is that gonna stop me from getting where I need to be? Should I big myself up more? Because I don't want people to think I'm big-headed.
No, do you know, it's so interesting. So I've actually written a new book called Confidence, 8 Steps to Knowing Your Worth. And there's 8 different steps, and this really kind of goes really deep into this healing story. But in one of the steps, I talk about, one of the steps is celebrate yourself. And I talk about the fact that the reason so many of us struggle with this is because there's a few reasons. One is that we glorify humility. So being humble is this really desirable trait. And so we are, especially as a nation, we're much more about self-deprecation, putting ourselves down. And so some humble, being humble is good, but we take it way too far. And then the second reason we do it is because we are so afraid of coming across as arrogant.
Yeah.
And there is this fear of being, exactly like you said, fear of being big-headed. If I am actually feel proud of myself, if I celebrate myself, if I shout about my achievements, if I, give myself a pat on the back for how hard I've worked. But there is a big difference between arrogance and confidence. And I think it's not talked about enough. You can be confident in who you are and also recognize yourself as a work in progress. They're not the same thing. And so I think that it's really important to actually get into the habit of being able to celebrate yourself. And I hope that you do.
So interesting, because I do feel like I put myself down all the time, and I don't know why I do it. I really don't. And I'm because I know I'm pretty cool. I know I'm good, and I celebrate myself. I'm happy with who I am. Flaws as well. Do you know what I mean? That's what makes me who I am. And I'm not worried. I'm not scared to talk about my flaws. But sometimes I do wish that I could be shout home a little bit more about what I've done.
I think I'm incredibly confident, but I don't think I'm arrogant at all.
But I think people would think you are arrogant until you meet you.
Yeah, but people can think whatever they like. Honestly, that couldn't matter less to me.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I can't do that.
I could think of nothing that bothers me less than that. That's the lowest.
I love that.
I love that.
And I think that's why another one of my steps is stop trying to be liked by everyone. And the thing is you could view it as, well, if I celebrate myself and if I show that I'm, what I've done, then people will automatically not like me. But what if you reframe that to, people will be really inspired by what I've done. People already who follow me know me. They understand I'm a good person. They know I'm a good guy. And actually you can inspire people with your success.
To build on that though, I think it's kind of when you're the one telling people that it's inspiring, that's when it comes across as arrogant. If you're called inspiring by other people for something you've done, that's great.
Well, I think, it's interesting you say that, because when I talk about manifesting, something I've started to really say to people is, I should put a disclaimer on manifesting, that manifesting your goals won't make you happy, because I truly believe that if you haven't done the work on yourself, if you haven't healed, if you haven't found self-love and self-worth and confidence, then it doesn't matter what goal you achieve, it will never be enough for you, because you'll be constantly trying to fill a void within you. You're hoping that, making that much money or reaching that achievement will make you feel validated or successful. But until you feel worthy and validated within yourself on the way, reaching that goal won't do anything. The aim shouldn't be that those goals make you happy. The aim should be that they make you feel immensely proud. And that feeling of pride is what lasts and carries on. The moment of happiness is fleeting, it goes. But feeling proud of yourself is so incredible, and it's like a foundation, it's a building block to confidence. And that's why another one of my steps in the New Confidence books is do hard things. It's about that pursuit of challenges and showing yourself that you are more capable than you thought possible.
I just realized that there must have been a time in your life where a manifestation of yours came to fruition and you were genuinely kind of taken by some experience. Maybe I'm wrong, but for you to go and write this incredible book about manifesting, and for manifesting to become a part of your identity, was there a moment where you manifested something and it came true and you realized deep down, like, oh my God, this is real, and you know, this could help people?
I mean, God, like so many. I mean, look, my whole life is a manifestation. You know, if I think back, and I mean, Spencer, you knew me back then, but you know, even just 7 years ago, so nearly 7 years ago, 6.5 years ago, I was truly at rock bottom. And I was 28 at the time. I'm 34 now. And I had never, ever known what it was like to be happy. I mean, truly never. For my whole life, I had been, although I didn't know it at the time because people weren't talking about mental health the way they are now, I had suffered from very severe depression, debilitating self-loathing. I mean, I cannot tell you how much I hated and loathed myself. I mean, I remember the first time I looked in the mirror at age, I mean, it must have been about 5, and just being like, I am so ugly. Like I couldn't stand the sight of myself. And that carried on throughout most of my life. I turned to drugs, you know, cocaine and alcohol when I was 18. And for the next 10 years, you know, I was completely hooked. I went to my first NA meeting when I was 21. So I knew I had a problem at 21, but I didn't give up till I got pregnant at 28. And within all that time was just this sense that I could never achieve anything for myself, that I was never going to amount to anything, that the only way that I would have a nice life is if I met someone who could support me, but felt deeply unattractive and unwanted by men. So it was this kind of like vicious cycle of just going out to escape and then being on a come down. And it was just a horrible life. And I didn't grow up in an environment that gave me a foundation to have self-worth, to know how to be happy. And, you know, I'm definitely not the only one that's had an experience like that. But for me, when I found manifestation, it gave me this sense of just hope and a feeling that I could take the power back in my hands. I think until then, I'd had real victim mentality, to be honest. I was very much like, poor me, like bad things happened to me. You know, do you know that, like, I don't think I've spoken about this much, but the overwhelming feeling I had was loneliness. Like I was so lonely. Oh God. I was so lonely. And I didn't have many friends. I was always on a come down, which means that I was doing nothing. Like in the day, I would just roam around. Like it was so sad when I look. So I haven't spoken about it for ages. So.
Don't worry, please.
Thanks for being so candid.
It was just really sad, and I really felt alone. And I would look on social media and I felt like everybody else was happy and had their shit together. But when I found this thing that gave me this thread of hope, I just clung to it. And I really decided that I would use every bit of pain that I'd ever been through and ever felt and all that self-loathing, and I would use it to change my life. And I guess I just started taking people on the journey with me. I was very open about and kind of vulnerable, I suppose, and willing to share because I wanted other people who felt like me to feel that they weren't alone. And that began this sort of whole journey. And now, as I walk through life every day, and I am so truly confident in who I am and of what I can offer the world, and I have a genuinely like the most positive attitude, and I'm relaxed and I'm not so highly strung, and I can enjoy like simple pleasures of life, and I don't need drugs to have fun anymore, and I have love in my life. It is such a gift and I'm so grateful for it, and it really is all because I just figured out this like life hack of manifestation and confidence. And so I just want to share it with everyone.
Has the loneliness gone?
Yes.
Amazing.
Oh, I couldn't feel happier to have good people in my life.
That's such a beautiful and inspiring story. And thanks for being so honest.
And I think the people listening should really use this and use those stories as this kind of, as a way to excite them that they can create something amazing not just using their mind, but it is a part of it. Like obviously we have to take action. We have to step outside our comfort zone. We have to work on ourselves. But if you just start by changing the way that you think, by changing the things that you think about, by focusing on what you have and not what you don't have, you can start to see little changes in your life. So a lot of the time, and this is a part of manifestation that I often forget to mention, but often we're really thinking about all the things that we're lacking. We keep ourselves in this scarcity mindset. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough friends. I was like this, all I would think about was what I don't have. I'm not good enough at this. And when you're focusing on the things you don't have, you're just keeping yourself stuck in that place. And actually, anything it is that you want, make sure you are thinking about what it is you want, not what you don't want. And so even just little language shifts. So instead of, I don't want to be struggling anymore, I want to be abundant. I want to feel incredible. I can't wait to be comfortable in my own skin. I can't wait to have a loving relationship. I don't want to be single anymore. It's just such an easy little shift to have.
What is the difference then?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting point. So say, I love pizza. I want to create a pizza business. I'm going to sit down and spend a day mulling over how my pizza business is going to be the best pizza business. I'm then going to, come up with a concept. Later down the line, I'm going to develop a logo and go and hire a chef and hire a marketing head and a head of sales and a head of operations. And, I'm going to build this business. When is it manifesting and when is it just me going to work?
Well, manifesting is making something happen. It's creating a reality based on what is in your mind. So if you have thought about something, my 7 steps, right? Let's just say that, like, I'll just top line.
List the 7 steps.
Be clear in your vision, get a goal. So your goal is, the pizza restaurant. Remove fear and doubt. Believe you're worthy of creating a business that is successful and that you have it in you to create the best pizza restaurant in London. Step 3, align your behavior. So you start taking action, you do everything you need to do, you set it up. You do all the incredibly hard work that you need to do to actually get it going. Step 4, overcome tests from the universe. So with the many challenges that are going to come to you as you open this restaurant, how are you going to persist through them? How are you going to take value from the lessons? How are you going to continue to show up even when it gets difficult? Step 5 is embrace gratitude. How are you going to keep yourself in a high vibrational frequency by constantly coming back to gratitude, being able to, I call it the manifesting sweet spot, knowing what you want whilst being entirely grateful for all that you already have. Step 6, turn envy into inspiration. Are you going to be able to look at other restaurants? We spoke about the pizza restaurants that you don't like before I came on, but are you going to be able to look at them and be able to take inspiration from them and not be envious of their success and allow them to show you what's possible? And then are you able to do step 7 and have trust and faith that it's going to happen the way it's supposed to? And if you do all those, that is manifestation.
I love that. It sounds like a good business plan.
It absolutely is.
I'm sold. I'm coming to the restaurant.
Yeah.
You're just going to come.
I'm coming.
Okay, so that's one pizza sold. Lovely.
How was your upbringing?
Not particularly happy one. My mum is a very unhappy person. She has a lot of mental health issues. While she is so loving, she's still alive and I love her so much. But yeah, there was no emotional safety or security at all. I was, brought up culturally very different to where I grew up. So I grew up in Oxford, but I was Iraqi. My family are Muslim. It was everything was different. The food we ate, the holidays we celebrated, the color of my skin, the color of my hair, the texture of my hair. It was just, I was different and I knew it. And I was very much felt that difference. And then obviously when the Iraq war broke out, and Islamophobia was huge. And, you know, I would be very embarrassed of my mom because she wore a headscarf. I wouldn't want her anywhere near school. So there was that. Then my brother and sister were much older. I didn't have there was no play. Like I don't remember ever getting to play. I'd play a lot of computer games on my own, and that was kind of it. My dad, on the other hand, God bless his soul, he is the most intelligent man I'd ever met. An incredible, now I'm so grateful to everything he taught me, you know, but at 5 years old, he's talking to me about quantum physics. Not about what I've done at nursery or school that day. He had no interest, and he wasn't an emotional man. Like it took until his last years really that he started to say, I love you. That just wasn't who he was. His brain didn't operate that way. He didn't experience emotions in the way a normal person does. So he wouldn't think to ask us how we were, if that makes sense. But he was just so focused on making sure that we were supported in other ways. So yeah, it's only on reflection. But having said that, you know, for years I was like, oh, I had a great childhood because I went to a nice school. And I was like, oh, I was so lucky. I had such a good upbringing. And only when I started to look back, I was like, oh, this is why I've got no self-worth. This is why I don't know how to be vulnerable in relationships. This is why I have commitment issues. This is why I don't like myself. This is why I never learned to be positive. And when I look back at all the things that I went through, and it was much more than all of that, but I'm like, oh, it makes sense. It's no fucking wonder I ended up the way I did, but how amazing that you can undo that damage and you can change it.
Sleep is the most impactful and natural performance-enhancing tool at our disposal. Without it, my body would simply not be able to recover and repair itself after I go for a run or a workout. It is essential to maintaining and enhancing our well-being. With Whoop, I'm able to track my sleep every single night and how it affects the type of activities I choose to do the following day. Think of sleep as your bank balance. The best thing is that every single day you get the chance to deposit more into the bank so that in the long term, you withdraw in the form of energy expenditure when you need it most. Whoop breaks down sleep so as to take the guesswork out of the equation. Not only do you get guidance each day around how much sleep you need based on your activity that day and what your optimal time to go to bed is, but with Whoop, you get a detailed analysis of the quality of your sleep and what you can do to be improving it. In addition to monitoring your sleep, you'll also get detailed insights into your recovery, stress levels, strain, and feedback on how your lifestyle choices impact each of these metrics. If you are interested in taking control of your health and wellness so that you can excel in all aspects of your life, you have to go and check out Whoop. Go to join.whoop.com/untapped to try Whoop for free for 30 days today.
Did I hear that your father gave everything that he had away towards the end of his life?
Yeah. He, you know, my dad was he grew up in like complete poverty, one of 9 kids his mum died when he was 5 in Iraq. His dad's livelihood was a stool like this size. He had an amazing life. I mean, he moved to England on a scholarship when he was young and built this amazing business. He got exiled from 2 different countries, started all over 3 times. I mean, he's just extraordinary. He's the smartest man I've ever met, but the humblest man. I mean, we talk about humble, like he was it. He never wanted for anything in his life. I mean, he used to buy to be CEO of like the biggest company. He'd go to like our school charity things and wear like our old school charity uniform. Like at the end, it was like Primark clothes, like a briefcase that he had for maybe 25 years. He was just a very humble man. And as growing up, I saw him as stingy. Like I thought I hated him growing up. I was like, fucking hell, just give me an allowance. Like, you clearly got money, give it to me. Like, I didn't get it. And I couldn't understand it. He just wanted us, he really needed us to get good grades, hard work. And there was none of that emotions, as I mentioned. But as we got older, what I recognized was that he was in fact doing it for us. And he got cancer a couple of years ago, and he in the last few years of his life, wanted to make sure that, in his words, when he died, the only thing we had to worry about was burying him. And absolutely everything was given away to a lot for orphans. That was really, really important for him to give money to orphans. And so he gave everything away for our kids' education, basically, and our kids' education. And that is an invaluable gift that I couldn't have even fathomed how a man can provide the education for all these children, 9 grandchildren and their children. And now I'm like, I'm so glad I didn't get that allowance or that fancy car or that. And you gave me you taught me the value of hard work and perseverance and the value of money. And that is a greater gift than anything else. And the fact my kids can get, it's just incredible. And I think I could just learn so much from him. And he's just an amazing man.
He sounds like an incredible guy. And we've all been through loss in this room. How do you deal with loss? How did you deal with the loss of your dad, if you don't mind answering?
Yeah.
And how do you navigate grief?
So I haven't told this story yet, but it's in my book. But we knew he was really unwell. But my sister's a GP and my sister's brother's a doctor, and they say it often happens where just before someone dies, they seem the best they've ever seemed. So like the day before, he seemed like he'd turned a corner and was like, my mum had taken him in the wheelchair to the shopping mall, and he said it was like he went on holiday and he was so happy. Anyway, the next day I went to my sister's house. He lives in Dubai, and we have a housekeeper in Dubai for him and my mum, and the housekeeper had really been looking after him. She was amazing, Kiki. And I was at my sister's house writing Confidence, and I was in the spare room, and suddenly I heard my sister on the phone being like, Kiki, no, just go and knock on Dad's door. Just knock on his door. So I go out and we're on FaceTime to him, and she opens the door and she's just screaming, Baba. Oh. And obviously he didn't wake up, and her screams I will never forget. And we had just sent my mum out the house to go to a party because we said, Dad will be fine. Just go and have fun and come back. So we had to call my mum, and we stayed on FaceTime the whole time and watched her come and sort of like kneel beside him, just screaming. I mean, they've been married 46 years. And I think in those 2 days, I mean, that day was just, complete shock. And I'm the youngest of 4. My brother was he was just in denial. My sister in Dubai went, they had to take the body. And I mean, it was really sad. But I was so glad I got to see him on FaceTime, because he was in the exact position he was when he naps, his leg up. He was so peaceful. Like, he couldn't have been more at peace. And I'm so glad I got to witness that. But on the Tuesday, I was doing a live show in Dubai to 750 people. I was doing two nights in a row. And in Islam, you bury a body very quickly. So I ended up still flying to Dubai as I was planned to. But on the Tuesday, instead of waking up and going to prep, I had to bury him. And so I went with my brothers and sisters, and we went in and we said goodbye to him. And I was kind of worried that I would sort of break down, but I think I had gone into such protective mode that I didn't shed a tear. I went on stage that night, and it was, obviously the worst show I've ever done. It was awful. And it was really hard. I don't think I was like fully there really. And then after that, I went to Thailand. I was doing all this work, and I didn't cry until like 5 weeks later. And so I think I didn't process it for some time. And then at Christmas, when I had some time, it came out a bit. But having said that, I have actually been kind of fine. And I think, although I miss him loads, I think the reason I'm fine is because he instilled a philosophy in me. And I asked him, are you scared of dying? And he just sort of laughed and was like, of course not. I have lived an amazing life. I've done what I came here to do, and I'm ready now. And so I think that without that, it might have been harder. Like, I can't imagine what it's like when it's a shock or when you start to watch someone. You know, my dad never complained in the years that he had cancer because that wasn't he had the most amazing mentality. But so I think I was he set us up to cope with it as best we can.
You just touched on something that's very important, I think. And it's that having those conversations with people that you love, particularly elder people in your life that you know, may not have the luxury of endless time left in their lives. My siblings were all much older than me. I was born much later, so my parents are getting on a bit, shall we say. And it's always been quite important to me to have those loving conversations so that everything has been said, if you know what I mean. Just in case. Like, obviously they're both well, healthy, but I can imagine, you know, losing a parent without having said the things that you might want to say to them would be rough. You know, I spoke to Chip Summers, who helped me with some of my addictions earlier in my life, and he was talking to me about grief and how, you know, when we lost Michael, obviously we knew there was a risk that he might die, but the circumstances that led to his death were pretty unfortunate. But, you know, obviously none of us got to say goodbye, and, you know, just how much we loved him and how much of an inspiration he was to me. So, you know, we never had those conversations because he was 22. Yeah. And so there's that, you know, there's that gap. Whereas I think, you know, my relationship with my dad now is a really loving one. Not because I think he's going to die, but because it's been very important to me. On his 80th birthday, which was, you know, a couple of years ago now, I sat with him and made sure to tell him like how much I love him and how much he means to me and how much I, you know, have taken from being his son, and, you know, like, and just how much I look up to him as a businessman, and you know, that's been said. And it's just, I think, you know, not to offer anyone advice, that's not why we do this show, but I think it was certainly a really nice feeling to do all of that, so that, you know, in the eventuality, of course, of him passing away, you kind of feel that that's been said. Yeah. I don't mean to be morbid because he's perfectly healthy, but, you know,
I think it's such a good point. I'd never really considered that, but yeah, it was. I asked questions that even my sisters and brothers, I don't think, you don't want to ask someone, are you scared of dying? It's a hard question to ask, or, you know, but actually I'm so glad I did. And you're right that even if it's not on the cards, just telling people how much you love them and how grateful you are for them and thanking them is an amazing thing.
Can I ask, with your new book, Confidence, coming out, is confidence, in your opinion, something that can be taught? I would have thought so, given that you've written a book on it.
But I was like, I don't think so.
Do you not think so?
No, of course. No, it absolutely can. Absolutely. You know, I think that generally speaking, and look, you guys have all got kids, so you know, kids are born confident, right? They are so self-assured. They think that they deserve absolutely everything. They can't understand why they can't have everything. They're not self-conscious. They're not, you know, they start off full of confidence. And I don't know if you're seeing it yet, but I know I am already with Wolf. They start school and suddenly they start to question, how am I compared to someone else? Do I fit in? Am I feeling left out? Oh my God. I mean, it's giving me such anxiety at the moment, this whole thing. I'm like, fuck, I don't want him to, how do I not fuck him up? But I can't, because there's only so much you can do once they're behind those school gates. Yeah. And
they've got to navigate that themselves a little bit as well.
Exactly. And I want to swoop in. And Wade's always saying to me, like, let him deal with it himself. Yeah. Like, he had an incident at school and I wanted to not send him to school the next day. Yeah. Because I was like, oh, poor baby. And Wade was like, no, you've got to let him. Anyway, so what happens is, at some point, basically, we all come to one belief, which is that we're not enough as we are. That's it. That's the fundamental truth of what happens to us. And to varying extents, we keep compounding that belief that we're not enough until we get to a point where we're riddled with self-loathing or insecurities or self-doubt or imposter syndrome, or just not feeling like we're good enough in whatever capacity. But I think that there is a way back to that childlike confidence that we're born with. And I know there is, because I've done it and I've tried and tested it. And I wanted to create, in the same way that I did with Manifest, when I started using manifestation for myself, I wanted to think about how can I create a formula that can be replicated for everybody else. So I came up with this really clear 7-step guide, and I've done the same for confidence. And to me, confidence, literally speaking, confidence is, trusting in perhaps your abilities and your capabilities. To me, confidence is actually so much more than that. It's the foundation of everything that we do, from in our relationships, our perceptions of ourselves, our careers, everything comes down to confidence and how we feel about ourselves, because it changes our whole perception of the world and all our interactions within it. So I created an 8-step guide to knowing your worth, and I have to say, I think it's my best book yet. And there's actually a lot more science in this book, which I love too.
I can't wait to read it.
Same. Do you think... obviously, a lot of people you can lose your confidence. Like you say, you go to school, there's bullying, there's social media nowadays that I think contribute to a lot of people losing their confidence because everything is so perfect on there.
Massively.
So somebody listening, you've said you've got your 8 steps, but somebody that's just having a bit of a confidence killer at the minute. What can they do? Just 3 easy things.
Let's do a social media one then. So I don't think delete social media, because I don't think that's a realistic answer or approach. But I think trying to figure out which kind of accounts make you feel good and which trigger your insecurities, and start muting people. Okay, so I love that mute button, because some of us will have friends or colleagues or people we know that we don't want to be rude and unfollow, but every time their content comes up, it just makes us feel a little bit more shit about ourselves. So just mute them. Or is there a celebrity that you follow that you're just sick of seeing how perfect their life seems? Just unfollow them, and I think actually just curate your feed, and then just be more mindful with when you're using it. So if you get home and you've had a terrible day, probably not the best day to use social media, because everybody else is talking about their highlights and it's going to make you feel worse. But if you're already actually in a good space, you're ready to feel inspired or entertained, that's a good time to use it. So just being more mindful with your use and just curating who you're following and who you're muting.
My social media is just bizarre. It's like I don't follow anyone on purpose, because I don't really care to see what everyone's getting up to. And so I only follow my wife. And my businesses.
And very soon me, when we reach 50,000 followers on
Maybe. So I don't follow anyone, but so I just get dished up all kinds of rubbish. Like I get dished up that loser who just eats stuff all day. Like that. What's his name?
Who?
No, do you know what I mean?
Loser who
Beavis
eats
or something.
Bevo?
Yeah, him. Yeah.
Oh,
I just I get served just rubbish, like total crap. And I look at it and I think, why is this on my feed?
Punishing you for not following anyone.
But and I'm looking at like this bloke eating Brussels sprouts whole, and I'm like, why am I seeing this? I can't mute that because I'm not following it. So why do I get served all this shit?
Also, you don't care, so delete social media. You don't care about
why
anyone
are you even opening it?
I hate it.
What,
it puts it like I can go on social media in a good mood and come off in a bad mood.
Maybe you just didn't use it.
Can anyone remember when social media first came out?
Yes.
So I remember we had Twitter when Made in Chelsea first came out, and that was the first time that you could receive messages from strangers on your phone, right? So prior to Twitter, like what are you laughing at? Prior to Twitter, people who had your phone number or email address could contact you, and that was it, right? There was other stuff on MySpace, but that was on the computer, right? So like on your phone, I had Twitter. And literally, I remember when the first episode of Made in Chelsea went out, and it was like, who the fuck's that fat wanker? And I was literally like,
that's why I was laughing.
I was like, what is this? Like literally, and then like all of a sudden you're communicating with tens of thousands of people who can just say like whatever they want in a public forum about you. I still think it's all very odd.
It is a very
like if I want to send Drake a DM, I can. That's mental. Like Drake and I aren't friends. Why can I appear on his phone?
Yeah,
it's not normal.
When you think about it, it is pretty like.
Yeah. I hate your music, you twat. Like that will pop up on his phone. Like it's mental.
And probably upset him.
I shouldn't be able to do that. Do you know what I mean?
So how would you choose what to manifest? Because I imagine a lot of people would just say, I want to manifest winning the Euro Millions. Like how
you've actually said that you do that.
Well, how did you bring that up? I wasn't going to say it.
Well, like I think everyone wants to win the lottery.
Yeah, I think about it every night in bed.
Do you?
Every night I think about what I'd do with that money. Anyway.
I fight with Wade about what we would do with the winnings.
Really?
Yeah, we get in such arguments about it.
Yeah, and it's not happened. I've spent all the money already. But how would you go about picking the things to manifest?
So one thing that I kind of suggest that people do at the beginning of their manifesting journey is create a vision board, which is sort of a visual representation of what you want your life to look like. Now, it doesn't actually have to be, it's not about pictures on a board. It's not a mood board. And I think people get confused. Oh, God, I've got to go find magazines and cut out all these pretty pictures and stick it on. That's not it. Mine is just bullet points and writing. But you can sort of get a big piece of card and split your life into categories. So I've got a guide in the book, but career, personal development, romantic relationships, home, friends and family, and maybe like hobby or travel or, where you want to go. And within each category, try and identify some really clear and specific goals. And I think that most people will know what they want in at least one or two categories. And if you're struggling, you can think about how you want to feel. So let's say you want a new job, but you really don't know what that specific job is yet. You haven't decided what field you even want to be in. You can think about how you want to feel. So I want to find something that makes me feel really excited to get up in the morning, something that fuels my passion, something that makes me feel challenged. I want to work in an environment where I feel respected by my co-workers, where I feel that I'm paid enough to feel comfortable. So you can really start to think about things from a different angle if you don't know the specifics. With personal development, I think people forget about this side of manifestation, but you can manifest how you want to feel. So I want to have healthier habits. I want to feel like I have vitality. I want to be able to wake up, at 6 a.m. and be raring to go. You can sort of manifest how you want to feel as well as these specific things.
And then what? Exercise discipline to get you there.
Yeah, exactly.
So kind of, it brings into question that whole motivation versus discipline thing.
Yeah.
Like, some days I feel motivated, some days I don't, but you do it anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So the discipline factor is kind of important.
Absolutely.
And actually actioning change
Yes.
to then be able to think clearly about the things that you want to do, I think is also obviously helpful. Setting that 6 a.m. alarm, getting out of bed,
100%.
having that coffee, getting in the cold shower, whatever it might be, just make the moves
Yes.
that shift the current situation that you're in.
Even like, for example, because in step 3 of the 7-step guide to manifesting is all about that align your behavior. It's about the taking action, align your behavior with the person that you want to become or the goals you want to reach. But similarly in the confidence book, step 2 is act with intention. And I speak a lot in that about how to set and create and stick to habits, how to use self-discipline when motivation wanes, and all of that.
Do you believe everything happens for a reason?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I really think that, I feel that I carry this constant feeling of everything is the way it's supposed to be and everything is leading me to where I'm supposed to go. And life is about learning. It's not about feeling good all the time and about being happy all the time. Life is about growth, and we can't grow if things are good all the time. Like, we need those challenges, and then we appreciate the good moments. Then you have a lull, and it's like a ever-evolving roller coaster, and I love that. And I think that having that mentality that everything is happening the way it's supposed to allows me to kind of go through and ride the waves of life with so much more ease and trust and fluidity and optimism. Being optimistic to me isn't feeling good all the time. It's knowing that even on the bad days, brighter days are coming. And so that's how I go through life. I still will have a period of time or some days where maybe my mental health isn't as good or I don't feel as good as usual, but it doesn't make me feel hopeless and it doesn't make me feel afraid that things aren't going to get better. Instead, I'm just like, what can I learn from this? Somebody said a great quote to me, and I can't remember it exactly, but it basically said that the universe will keep showing you the same things until you learn the lesson. And so it's like the same problems keep coming up until it teaches you what you're meant to know from it. And I think that was like really profound for me. And actually I was like, you know what, I'm not learning from this. And that's why it keeps coming up. And it has changed the way that I approach my challenges.
Roxy, thanks so much for joining us today. Just a reminder, when is your book out?
27th of March.
27th of March. And I would love a signed copy to give to my wife.
Absolutely. I can't wait.
Incredible as well to have witnessed the success and to see it. You know, like obviously you referenced it. We've known each other for many years, and I kind of almost felt like proud to know you when your book started doing what it did, because it was amazing. It was absolutely everywhere. I think I told you that when I was in Jordan, there was somebody in the desert reading Manifest.
No.
Yeah. Did I not tell you this?
No.
Oh, sorry, I meant to. So we passed through this place for some food on Marathon 29 at the very end. So we were a bit closer to civilization. And Vogue was there and the kids were there and everyone. And this place had like an area to congregate. And there was a couple sat there and the woman was reading Manifest. And I walked past her completely like, I was pretty battered at that time.
Yeah.
I walked past her and I went, I know Roxy. And she was like, really? And I was like, yeah, like she's a friend of mine. And she was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I was like, yeah, that's so
I love how
random.
you'd just broken a world record, but what you were feeling proud was knowing me.
Yeah. That was my moment of pride.
So after that, has your thoughts changed on manifesting?
I think she describes it really well. And I think for people who perhaps can implement the 7 steps of her book, I can see how it could be really helpful.
So with the manifesting thing, I think what I've taken away from it is whether or not you call it manifesting, if you're doing things positively, if you're waking up in better moods and, like you say, not giving in to, not thinking that you can fail, waking up with a smile, going out to your day and just being happier, then better things will come your way. So whether or not you call that manifesting or just call that positivity or just call that happiness, taking that on to your everyday life can make a huge change.
Yeah, I agree. And there's certainly an element of planning around it. Like I felt that the difference perhaps between someone that manifests and someone that doesn't manifest is the actual physical act of writing it down. You know, Roxy spoke about bullet points. So she writes down things. That to me is preparation, planning ahead, trying to conceive your plan, you know, so that it's fresh in your mind. You know, in business, you might call it a 5-year plan. You know, like if you have a startup, you'll try and envisage where the startup's getting to, and you'll give yourself performance indicators to kind of hit certain stages of growth. Yeah. And I think, you know, your life should be similar to that. If you're not ever thinking about how you can grow or get further, then, you know, you may find that you plateau and just stay the same. And I think manifesting is certainly an interesting way of looking at that, whatever you might call it. So I think there are kind of different ways of saying stuff. I love the conversation. It took some unexpectedly emotional turns, which I wasn't really expecting.
I was not expecting to have tears rolling down my face today.
Yeah.
But she spoke about her father. So she was a great guest.
Yeah.
I thought she spoke beautifully. She was such a nice person. And I think she really kind of opened up to us a lot more than what she probably has in other podcasts. She said she spoke about a lot more and new things, which is brilliant.
I was quite moved by some of what she was saying. And also I've known Roxy for many years, by the way, and I didn't know some of that stuff. Like I didn't realize that she suffered, you know, being lonely and stuff in that way. Like I didn't know that side of her. Like we used to spend a lot of time in a similar social circle, like a group, and we would go out, you know, to kind of clubs and stuff, you know, fairly regularly when we were much younger. And I didn't know that about her.
I think loneliness can be a killer because you can be surrounded by a lot of people. You can be in a room with 100 people, but you can still quite easily feel lonely. So when she was describing that, I think a lot of people at home will also be quite connected to that because a lot of people are lonely even when they've got people around them.
I related to a lot of what she was saying far more so than I thought I would. You know, when she was talking about her personal experiences with loneliness. I wouldn't say I've ever suffered from loneliness. I've suffered from boredom before. When I was, you know, a very turbulent drinker, I would be bored, you know, because you're drinking and everyone else is working, you know, type thing. Or between TV shows, you know, when you're not currently employed.
And that's why you drank.
You have that time off and you're just turbulent. I was just turbulently getting pissed. Like everyone else is just at work, so you're alone. So like when she was saying all that, I was like, yeah, that is interesting. You fire off like 4 messages to people like, hey, like, what are you up to? It's like, I'm at the office, mate. And you're like, oh God, now I feel like a loser.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so am I.
Yeah.
Just wondering what you're doing later.
Finish because I can meet you at the pub.
Yeah.
No, I really enjoyed the conversation. I hope that people listening can take a lot from it, whether or not you're a huge believer in manifesting, the law of attraction. I do believe in it all. And I think if you think these positive thoughts, then hopefully positive things come your way. So thank you, Roxy. You was great.
If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, please drop us 5 stars in a review. It really helps other people find us. We are a new podcast. We appreciate your listenership. And we're very much looking forward to seeing you next week for a brand new episode of Untapped. My entire journey on Untapped is being fueled by the world-leading supplement brand Heights. Day in, day out, through ups and downs, whether I'm at my desk, with my kids, training, or in the desert. When it comes to achieving peak performance, I've learned that having great nutrition is crucial. It is, after all, the foundation of everything. I have been a supplement skeptic all of my life, but when I entered the desert, I knew that I needed that little extra help to get my Guinness World Record. I chose Heights, recommended by the experts on my team, and it's supported by over 700 scientific studies. I knew I could trust them, and it worked. Made by doctors and dietitians, their magnesium is a clean and powerful supplement. It not only helps with my sleep on a nightly basis, but also with my recovery. I would highly recommend that you try them for yourselves. Taken by over 103,000 high performers, including top international sports teams, Olympians, and world record holders like myself. Why don't you give them a go? Get 20% off your first subscription at heights.com/untapped or use code UT20 at checkout.